Okay, here we go. Student-employee evaluations. This slideshow will cover tips and suggestions for having effective conversations with your student employee. The flow for this training is as follows. We'll start with some pre-evaluation tips, some things you can do during the evaluation, some follow-up, and then advice for having these conversations. Up first, pre-evaluation. So, pre-evaluation, you're going to want to discuss with the employee the expectations of the position, goals, and skills that they will gain or improve by completing their job duties. This could happen as part of the interview process and, again, in the onboarding for this position. To avoid confusion, it will be helpful to walk employees through the full evaluation form prior to asking them to complete their portion. Students only need to fill out the self-eval portion of the form. They should rate themselves on all position responsibility options. As a supervisor, it is up to you to decide which career competencies are most applicable to the student position. At least 3 competencies must be selected. Tell them the process of when you expect them to complete their self-evaluation page and if you want to see it before the meeting. Be sure to communicate which competencies you selected with the student employee. They should provide specific examples of how they meet those competencies in the comments. Student employees will also need to complete the 2 self-reflection questions at the bottom of the self-eval. Remember, the goal of an evaluation meeting is to be used to talk through both the self and supervisor evaluation portion. Prior to your scheduled meeting with the student employee, complete the supervisor portion. Be sure to provide specific examples in the comment section. Okay, on to the actual evaluation. Although performance evaluations are a time for supervisors to give the employee feedback, it should not be a one-sided conversation. Discussion is necessary to motivate and encourage your student to continue to grow and develop. Engage the student in conversation by asking questions. There are some sample questions on the following slide. Here are some sample questions that you could use in an evaluation. What are you learning or do you hope to learn from this position? As your supervisor, what can I do to help you perform better? What are you learning in class that you can apply here at work? How does this job fit in with your academics or future career path? What do you like about this position? What isn't working and how can we improve it? What skills or training would you like to be provided in order to be more effective in this position? Remember, the discussion that stems from these questions can help you develop performance goals and objectives for the future. On to the follow-up. Follow-up is an important part of the overall evaluation process. To prepare for the follow-up conversation, think about what type of student employee you evaluated. The following slides will provide you some suggestions for speaking with employees who meet and/or exceed expectations, as well as employees whose work might need some improvement. Follow-up when employees meet or exceed expectations. Discuss professional development opportunities. Are there additional certifications or trainings the department will pay for the employee to attend? Find out what motivates the employee and how you can retain them. If they enjoy interacting with others, is there a way to increase their opportunities to do this? Give your student more responsibilities that will boost their resumes. That could be a supervisory role, an office or team project they could help with, or even providing those additional professional development opportunities. Show appreciation for good performance. Employees like to be recognized for hard work. Saying thank you goes a long way towards motivating employees. It is also important to show appreciation in a way that is meaningful to the employees, but that's a whole nother training. Feel free to reach out to the employment team for more information on that. You also want to be specific in which accomplishments you are complimenting and why it was so important to your department. If the employee knows exactly what they did to receive kudos, they are more likely to replicate that behavior in the future. When following up with an employee whose work needs some improvement, be clear on expectations and what will happen if they are not met. If you don't meet X standards, Y will happen. Give them actionable suggestions like, you never respond when you are called on radio. You might hear better if you take out your headphone. Don't bury negative feedback in between compliments because that could create a disconnect in what the employee hears. Consider sending them a follow-up email so the employee can refer back to what they need to do. Discuss how progress will be tracked. Keep in mind the specific performance goals that were set during the evaluation and follow up in 2 to 4 weeks to see if progress is being made. If progress is not being made, offer suggestions on how to improve, give feedback, and ask if additional resources are needed. Follow up in another 2 to 4 weeks. If progress has not been made at that point, you might want to think about removing that employee from the schedule. And you should still talk about professional development opportunities and what other things are available should the employees start to improve their work. The next slide will provide some advice for having effective conversations. During an evaluation meeting, employers should cite examples of where the student has done well and areas where improvement is needed. If criticism is made, it should be done so in a constructive and supportive manner. Once the student has completed their portion and turned it into you, you can then complete the supervisor portion on page 3. Be sure to provide specific examples in the comment section. An evaluation should be done on the whole performance period rather than the student employee's most recent performance. For example, instead of doing just the last week, you should evaluate the entire semester. Focusing on the overall working period will allow an employer to evaluate an employee's long-term track more effectively. Student employee evaluations should not be the first time students receive feedback from their supervisors. Dialogue should occur on a regular basis. Consider implementing a mid-year check-in where you talk specifically about their performance and feedback. The evaluation form can be used as a guide for that conversation, as well as like a progress report. And finally, avoid focusing directly on the employee's personality. Instead, always emphasize behaviors or actions. For example, instead of commenting on the reliability of an employee, comment on what makes them reliable, such as their excellent attendance record or ability to consistently complete all the assigned tasks within an assigned time frame. Here you will see a checklist with some next steps. You can print out the tips and tricks handout attached to this training for easy review. Review the questions that were provided earlier in this slide. Find your own words to communicate them. They don't have to be these exact words. Reach out to your employees and have some conversations with them. Schedule the evaluation between November 1st and April 1st, and remember to submit the evaluations by April 30th. We hope you found this slideshow helpful, and remember, if you still have questions or want to talk through the process, reach out to someone on the LSE employment team.